Are you looking to buy properties at a good price or a bargain or below market value? Well, the best way to do that is to buy property from a motivated seller. In this video, I'll cover for you the benefits of that, but alongside that, I'll cover for you exactly what makes a motivated seller. You might be thinking, what makes a motivated seller? And that's a good question to start off with, by the way. Now, general property investors can sell their home whenever they want to, and that's if they ever decide to, because some people stay in the same house from birth to death. So it's a choice that they make if they need to, depending on certain circumstances. But some sellers sometimes have an inflated view of the value of their property because it's their prized and main possession. They are likely to be aware that there is a housing shortage in the UK and intend on using competition between potential buyers to get the highest possible price for their house, and you can't blame anybody for doing so, because you and I would be exactly the same. Buying a property from an unmotivated seller can involve a lot of back and forth and negotiating, and can drag out the sale for a long period of time, many months usually, and sometimes even resulting in the owner deciding not to sell at all, which is very frustrating if you are a buyer. Such sellers are therefore not ideal for property investors, because we obviously want to complete on deals, because that's how we make our money. Motivated sellers, for any of a number of reasons, have a deadline that they need to sell their property by. So they're keen to do the deal, and they want to do it as soon as possible. More often than not, this is due to them experiencing a major life event that requires them to move quickly to the next stage of their life, whatever that may be, and I'll cover some of the reasons for you very shortly. Now, some sellers become motivated over time. That might not be where they start, but as time progresses, they just want to get rid of the property or whatever they're looking to sell, by the way. They may not have immediately needed to sell their property and waited a while for the right deal to come along, because of course, as I've said earlier, they want to get the best deal. And then only for their property to still be on the market a year later frustrates them, annoys them, and they want to get on with it, because by now they've kind of fed up or semi-fed up. Such sellers are therefore attractive to property investors, people like you and me, because in their desire to get the deal done, they are likely to accept an offer that is more reasonable to you, me, and buyers, and obviously reasonable to them because it helps them get the deal done, because the price they were selling it at the moment obviously isn't working for them. Now, an offer which is below market value being accepted vastly increases the margins for you. So if you buy properties below market value, you're doing really well. They may even be open to being flexible about how they are paid, as long as they can get some of the money very quickly, because if they're motivated, they just want to do the deal and they want to move on. Now, property investors, people like you and me, will also be attractive to the seller, because investors will likely have the money ready to go or have the finance in place so that they can close a sale quicker than somebody who isn't fully prepared, or somebody that is in the process of selling their own home to move to another home. And as you know, once you have a chain, the likelihood of the chain breaking is higher because there's more than 1, 2, 3, 4 parties involved. Now, it's possible to find a motivated seller without using an estate agent, but you have to do a lot of the research yourself and the groundwork, and you have to go and find them. Not impossible, a lot of people do it, and it's a worthwhile exercise. For example, looking up which properties are listed by multiple agents, a dead giveaway that someone is looking for a sale fast, and that's why they've used 2, 3 or more agents, because they're trying to widen their net. Instead of contacting that seller through any of the estate agent sites, you could write a letter to them directly yourself and post it through the property which is on sale to attract their attention. Such sellers are golden for investors, because the middleman is cut out, therefore saving both the seller and the investor significant fees, more so the seller because they've got to pay the agent. If working with an agent, you will likely have to ask the estate agent questions to determine whether a seller is motivated or not, and they won't always give you the answer because they're acting in the best interest of the seller, so they're not going to give you everything you need to know. If you're contacting the seller directly, you can ask them yourself the reason for selling, how quickly they want to sell, and build up some rapport. Given how personal many of the reasons are for being a motivated seller, they are unlikely to include them all on the listing of their home. But if you have a conversation with them, you can read between the lines and get a gist of exactly why they may be selling. Now, some of the reasons someone may be motivated to sell include divorce. Now, this is a big one. If the seller has split up with their long-term partner, they may no longer be able to afford their home with their current existing income, or they just want to move on out of that house, have a new life, new start, therefore they just want to sell the house, or both parties want to sell the house. It will therefore be desirable for them to move quickly, sell the property, get through the divorce, and go to the next chapter of their lives. The property may also have bad memories for them, and therefore waiting around to sell the property is of no purpose. Legal fees could be racking up, no purpose. Their partner could be difficult, awkward, so it doesn't serve a purpose. So both parties, if there are two or more, just want to sell and move on. The second one is the owner may be someone elderly. So the property may be currently used by somebody who now requires additional support for daily living activities, and therefore may be moving to a care home. That means they don't need the house anymore and they want to sell it on, because private care fees for elderly people is expensive. So those managing the sale, likely the children of the owner, will want to quickly go through the transaction, sell the property, so they can use those funds to use for the care of their elderly relative or parent, and that's understandable. However, the owner will likely have lived there for a very long time, and these properties, more than other properties, will likely or may likely require greater maintenance to bring them up to date to modern standards, and that happens quite often. But that's an opportunity for you to obviously negotiate a reasonable price. They may also have adaptations within the home that have aided that particular person when they were living in the property based on their own needs in terms of care and stair lifts, etc. And you may need to remove those because your intended occupant or tenant may not be somebody elderly, but that's something you need to be aware of. Inheritance is a big one. If the sellers have inherited the property from someone else, they will likely not have the same connection with the home, or they just want to sell the property, have the cash and do something else with the cash, because having the property maybe isn't something that they're interested in, because they might not be property investors, or they might have a need elsewhere for the cash. In some instances though, sellers who have inherited a property want a quick sale so that they can sort out splitting the proceeds between all the new owners or the people who've inherited the property and other assets, and they don't want to basically mess around. They just want to sell the property as soon as they can. Everybody divvies up the money and goes their own way. Another reason is relocation. The property owner may have acquired a new job in another city, so they want to move on. They want to sell that house so they can buy a new one, because at the moment they might be renting in their new location. Or it's likely that they've been given a start date and they will likely want to already move to the new city before the start date to get a feel for the place, and especially if their workplace is outside of reasonable commuting distance. So just be aware of that. This is quite a common reason, because people do move around based on the kind of work and the job that they have. So when you're working with a motivated seller, it's important to work out what their priorities are, and you can do so by asking the agent or the seller themselves. Ask them directly, what's the reason for sale, why you're selling, how long you lived in the property for, where you're moving to, what's going on in your life. It's just a conversation, that's all it is. Now, if you can solve more of their problems than just taking the house away from them, they are more likely to accept your offer because you're helping them. and it's likely they will accept a much lower offer than others were putting forward. So it's important to know the reason why. For example, you could offer to dispose any of the furniture that the seller does not want to take with them to their new move, because they don't want the headache of trying to dispose of that furniture. So you take it away, take it in the box, you're doing something extra. Your offer may give you a far greater saving than the cost of removing the furniture, but the convenience of it would be more attractive to the seller because they just want to move on and they want to move on fast. So that's a conversation for you to have with the seller in order to be supportive. It's also helpful if the estate agent is motivated too, as they can advise the seller to accept your offer. They can't force them, and most agents are motivated because they don't get their commission or their payment until a property is sold. And as you know, estate agents earn commission through the sale of houses, so they only make money when the sale goes through, and therefore you just got to build rapport with them and just assure them that you are serious and you are going to buy the house and you can afford to buy the house. However, if a property has been on the market for a long time and you can close the sale quickly, this will be more attractive to an estate agent too, because they just want to get off their books. And even if the commission isn't quite as high as they would have liked, they are more likely to want to do the deal so they can move on, take off the property from their website so that they can work on other properties. Now, motivated sellers, I've just given you 2 or 3 different reasons here. There are many other reasons why somebody may be a motivated seller. Your job is to find them. So what you could do, by the way, is, like I said, go on websites where there's properties on sale, have been on sale for a long time. Something else you could do is a direct mail campaign, writing to a particular area or demographic or your goldmine area, or writing to all the properties on sale in a particular area. Have a conversation, establish exactly who's motivated, talk to them, see where the pain points are, see what you can do to address the pain points, and then buy the property from them. You could even do a lease option, which is you take over the property, and at some point in the future, let's say in 5 years time, you then end up buying the property. That could help. Another important key reason is somebody could be facing major financial difficulties, because let's say they've got 2 properties, one that they live in, the second one that they're renting out, and they've lost their job, or they've had a pay reduction for whatever reason, or their health taken a downturn and they can't afford to keep up the repayments, or they've lost a tenant in the buy-to-let property. You could go in there and say, I'll pay your mortgage payments or repayments for now, and then let's do a lease option, and in 3 years time or 5 years time or at some point in the future, I'll then buy the property from you, because obviously if they can't keep up the repayments, the house may be repossessed at some point in the future. That's causing them aggravation, frustration, sleepless nights. You want to get rid of all that headache for them and make it easier for them, because generally speaking, people who haven't been in debt and who aren't behind with their payments, if they start receiving court letters or payment demands or late payment fees and defaults, makes them uncomfortable because they're not used to it, and we're all like that. So find out the reason why somebody's looking to sell, and if the reason is strong enough, then you go in there and make sure, by the way, you can do the deal quickly, because the last thing you want to be doing is messing somebody around. Because if somebody's giving you a good deal and it adds up, and let's say it's below market value, and you promise them speed, then I feel it's imperative and important that you do the deal as quickly as you can. So if you're relying on third-party funding, bridging finance, mortgage, whatever, private loans, make sure you have those in place first. Because if you can show that to a seller, say, look, I've got the funding and the finance in place, I can move quickly, here's my solicitor, here's the cash, my bank statements, I'm ready to go, I'll do the deal, let's say within 6 weeks, okay, subject to searches, you're good to go. And by the way, you can do searches quicker as well, you've just got to pay extra. So if there's enough margin in the deal, you could pay extra to get the searches quicker, buy the house quicker, and everybody's happy. So where possible, try and find a motivated seller so you ease their pain, sort out their problem, and of course it gives you a benefit, and in the sense that you get a much better deal.